We are so excited to be with you today. First of all, I hope that all of you enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday last week. For those of you that were traveling, I hope that you were safe out there. I traveled. There was a lot going on those roads, but I'm glad that I got to and from my destination safely. Hope you enjoyed time with family and friends and loved ones over the long weekend that we had. And today, we are excited to have Luisa Lopez with us. We're going to talk about social work, one of my favorite topics. So stay tuned, stay with us. We're only here for a few moments, and we are so grateful for each of you being able to just take time out of your busy schedules and spend this time with us as we dive into this amazing topic. Wherever you're watching us from, we want to shout you out. So if you can, let us know where you're from, let us know your name so we can acknowledge you. And throughout this conversation, we want you to be engaged. So feel free to leave a comment below or to chat with us. We'll try to acknowledge it throughout our time live. And if you're watching this later on, then feel free to also comment. We still want to hear your thoughts. Louisa, I'm so excited to have you. We're about to get started.
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us, Louisa. I like to call Louisa my partner in crime for reasons that she knows. Um, but we have Louisa Lopez with us. I want to read her bio and formally introduce her to all of those that are listening. Louisa Lopez is the president of the Latino Social Work Coalition and Scholarship Fund, the director of social services and communications at the Urban Outreach Center of New York, where she's advocated for increased accessibility and availability of assisted reproductive technology, as well as destigmatizing infertility in communities of color. She's published. She's a published author and Amazon's number one bestseller, Latinx and Social Work. Woo! Give it up for Latinx and Social Work doing amazing work out there. Louisa holds a BA in political science from the College of the Holy Cross and earned her master's of social work from NYU. We're so excited to have her. She's done so much in her career. She's concentrated on addressing structural challenges by developing and implementing social interventions aimed at effective positive change at all levels of government. Louisa is also the chair of the National Association of Social Workers, New York City chapter political action committee, and she's been doing amazing work as the new chair, where I have the privilege of supporting her and all of the amazing political social work initiatives that she's been doing and pace. So, Louise, I'm so happy again that you're here. We only have a few minutes together, so I just want to jump right in it, but also just want to say thank you for being with me and sharing a space.
It is my honor and my privilege to be here. I am definitely your partner in crime. In everything that we do, we always seem to be in each other's circles, which I love. It's
Yes.
one of the things that I love the most about being a social worker in this city is working closely with you. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Louisa. I love that. So, we were talking a few minutes ago before we went live about some of the ways that we wanted to really address this conversation. We wanted to keep it general in terms of the topic, which is social work and really what's been going on in our profession. We're both social workers in New York City, and we have seen firsthand as women of color living in communities of color, but then as social workers of color working in these communities, we've seen such a drastic shift and change in our profession during the pandemic when, people's lives were at stake. And when we watched many of our community members, get sick and many of them die. And, we've seen the health disparities in our communities and so much has evolved and changed during a pandemic, especially in our profession. I was wondering if you could sort of speak to some of the changes that you have seen and that you have noticed evolving.
Absolutely. So, the pandemic, we know it was a catastrophic, a tragic event worldwide. And one of the things that I found frustrating at the height of the pandemic, and now that the pandemic has sort of receded from the public discourse, the public consciousness as well, is that everybody was really focused on first responders. right? The people on
Mhm.
the front lines, and rightly so. Those people were doctors. Those people were nurses. Those people were in emergency rooms. But no one ever talked about the social workers.
Right.
The social workers that were tasked with minding the mental health and wellness of the communities that were disproportionately affected by the effects of the pandemic, which we know, as always, are Black and Brown communities. In my community of East Harlem, we were the epicenter for a short while there, and then it was in Queens, another predominantly Latino community. So this lack of focus on how the profession of social work has been so essential in getting people through the pandemic, and
Yeah.
now post pandemic, and dealing with the fallout, the mental health challenges that our students and schools are facing, that our families are facing, that our communities are facing, is particularly alarming to me. Which is why I think the work that you do and the work that I do in elevating the profession of social work in so many different spaces is so important, right? Because people need to know. People
That's
need to know that social workers are also on the front lines, and often without the supports that other professions get to do their jobs. And it's a shame, but it's also a point of pride that social workers get it done. Uh,
yes.
and that we've been also on the front lines of handling the fallout of the pandemic and doing it well, and often doing it, and most of the time doing it without any fanfare,
Yeah.
without anybody acknowledging that work,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
anybody giving us the support that we need to do it.
It's so true. And some people may be listening and they're not social workers and may be wondering what do they mean by that? I think it's really interesting that and what I love also most about social work is that our profession is so vast. We are represented in many across many sectors and industries and entities. We're seen in government. We've been seeing a new rise of social workers in politics, which we love. We're in hospitals, we're in community-based organizations, we're in schools. Really, the sky's the limit in terms of our reach and our work and the impact that we have. And so I think it's really important that you mentioned social workers have been on the front line, especially during the pandemic. No, we have not received the credit that we deserve. But we know we're not in this for the credit. We're in it for our hearts, and because we feel called to this profession and because we love it so much and we care about our communities of color. So I think it's important, that we also are educating our communities and the public about who we are as social workers and about the things that we have been able to accomplish, especially over these last few years. I'm wondering what forward looks like for us. I know we talked about the old versus the new and how the pandemic has gave way to social workers now being able to go into more non-traditional spaces of work, and being able to really even go into entrepreneurship. And wonder if you can speak more to that. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on that. And then if you can put a plug in about what Latino Social Work Coalition is doing.
Absolutely. So one of the things that is really exciting during the pandemic and post-pandemic is to see the rise of what I call the entrepreneurial social worker.
I love it.
Social workers really branching out from the traditional spaces where people think is our natural habitat,
Yeah.
schools, hospitals, mental health clinics, and really taking advantage of the new opportunities that have been brought forth since the pandemic.
Yes.
Social workers getting into telehealth, social workers becoming authors. I myself became an author during the
Congratulations.
pandemic, sharing my experiences in the advocacy space. Social workers entering the workforce in government spaces. You and I know that intimately
Mhm.
with the work that we do with the Political Action Committee for NASW. So I think that this is a really exciting time to be a social worker, to look at those non-traditional paths of policy development, implementation, of entrepreneurship and coaching, coaching people through the transitions that are
Yes.
natural in the course of a social worker's career.
Mhm.
There are so many people in our circle that are coaching people through that so that they can position themselves as the value add for whatever corporation or organization that they want to work in. So the Latino Social Work Coalition, we had a little bit of a rebrand, just like many other organizations during the pandemic, where we were really intentional about entering that space and supporting social workers, whether they be brand new social workers that just graduated from a social work school or established professionals in the field that wanted to think about their career really intentionally
Yes.
and wanted to really look at other spaces that they could bring value. So a lot of our programming, a lot of our professional development, and a lot of how we're thinking about strengthening that pipeline of Latino social workers is really geared towards supporting social workers that want to do something different, that are looking at their degree and are looking at the skills that they have and thinking, man, where can I go to bring these skills where maybe there's never been somebody like me before? And how
Mhm.
do I translate those skills into a successful, even more successful career than has been previously thought? We were joking before we came on about the stereotypes that exist with
Mhm.
social workers, right? Like we go in and
Mhm.
we pick people's kids.
Mhm.
It's not true.
We're not here to take away
We're not here to
children.
take
Nope.
away people's
We're
kids.
not children snatchers,
No,
right.
that's not what we do.
Mhm.
But what we do is think very critically about the needs of communities, of
Mhm.
organizations, of nonprofits, of for profits, of corporate
Yes.
spaces, and bring those social work skills, those clinical skills, those analytical skills to those
Mhm.
spaces to provide value where we can. So the Latino Social Work Coalition is really excited to enter that space. And I encourage everybody to go on our website. It's up on the screen, latinosocialworkcoalition.org. Look us up because we're doing really great work. And 2023 is going to be a really big year for us. So stay tuned on that.
I love that. I love that you guys are really at the forefront of a lot of this change that's taking place in our profession. It's so necessary that we have organizations like yours that's really helping and guiding our profession or those that are in the profession. I'm thinking of recently, I want to say there's been a wave of social workers now in places of power and places of leadership. And I think that is so crucial because when we're thinking about the pandemic and all that has taken place and transpired, although essentially we're not in the height of it any longer, but there are some lingering effects that has happened, that has taken place in our communities, and it requires innovation, it requires forward thinking, it requires thinking out of the box to really ensure that we're moving our communities and our society forward. And what better people are there than social workers that have these essential skills to be able to lead these conversations and lead our city forward. So I love the fact that I've seen a new wave of social workers, and as commissioners, as senators, as city council members, assembly members, it is very encouraging. And I think it also lends to the way in which our profession has really been evolving.
Mhm.
And also wanted to touch on what does it look like for our schools. So traditionally, I want to say our schools of social work tends to really hone on the more clinical tracks, right? So clinical social work or therapy and counseling. But there is a wave of individuals and students that are coming up, that's emerging, that wants to that's looking for something different, like you mentioned, in the profession, that's looking to get more into politics and apologize for that. That's looking to get more into politics or get into a government or into entrepreneurship. And so, what does it look like for our schools in terms of the curriculum and what we're teaching them and training and raising up a new generation of social workers?
Mhm.
I love that. I'm so excited.
It is such an exciting time to be
So
to see a social work students, particularly. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I recently became a board member at the Social Work Democracy Project for the Congressional Research Institute for Social Work Policy. And one of the things that we think about, that we try to affect change in that group, is really looking at ways that social work and social workers can help us strengthen our democracy. The effects of the insurrection on January 6th of last year are still very much felt. And I think that it bodes well for the social work profession that we're really going back to the roots of our code of ethics when it comes to
Mm,
advocacy and community organizing,
yeah,
which is really exciting for the developments of social work education as a whole,
yes.
because now schools know that you can no longer ignore the
Mhm.
political activism that is required
That's
to
right.
do this work on a macro level.
That's right.
Social workers need to be, everything the local is political.
Mhm.
Social work is political work, particularly because you want to encourage the communities that need the most resources, that need the most help, that need the most support to get out there and vote with their feet.
That's right.
So I think that this is a really exciting time to be a social work student if you are interested in more macro and policy focused work. I was one of those students at NYU. I was one of those
Nice.
rabble rousers.
Yep, at Columbia.
Wanted
Woo, rebels.
I really wanted policy classes, and my friends and I, that's what we were interested in, and that's what we
Mhm.
advocated for, and that's what we got.
Mm.
Going to Washington D.C. As part of the study away program at NYU for policy and macro focused work was really transformational for my life, because it's where I figured out that what I was really good at and where I could really use those clinical skills was in the macro policy space,
I love that.
and advocating for causes that were near and dear to my heart. So I'm so
Mm.
glad you mentioned that. We are definitely at a turning point for social work to really affect change at a larger scale, at a larger level. And that's always been my deal, right? What is the path for me to help as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time? And oftentimes that is through advocacy, through community organizing, through policy development and policy implementation. So it's really exciting time on that
Mm.
front as well.
I love that so much. I'm thinking about I went to Memphis last year, or my goodness, was this year, for my birthday. And I'm a nerd, so museums are like great for me. For birthday trips. And so I was in a museum, and I remember seeing NASW New York City chapter right in the middle of the civil rights movement with their sign up. And I was so proud. And I
Mhm.
gotta find the photo, but it was like from 1960 something.
Oh, I love that.
NASW New York City. And I'm in Memphis. So I see this in a museum, and I'm just like, I gotta share this on my LinkedIn page. Like, this is what social work is about. This is our roots. These are our roots. These are our beginnings. We were in the height of the most horrific moments in our city, in our nation, standing up for communities, advocating for change, pushing humanity forward, and never giving up. That is the heart of who we are. Those are our roots. Those are our beginnings. And I think it looks like we're essentially going back to our roots because time and the era in which we live in requires that. And so, I love that there are many people coming up that is interested in macro and policy focused work. And so, I'm thinking of ways that we could really think and plan carefully for those future generation social workers
Mhm.
that may even be in high school or college, and they're looking to pursue social work, but they're more interested in the macro and policy work or the entrepreneurial work. We definitely need to start thinking strategically, especially with our institutions, about ways to really transform and accommodate our curriculum to the new era in which we live.
I agree. I 100% agree. And one of the things that really um, galvanized me in my own leadership journey is when I think about, what the professions that everybody thinks their parents want them to go into, right? Everybody
Mhm.
was parents want them to go be a lawyer, go be
Doctor,
a
lawyer.
doctor, go be this, go be that, but nobody ever talks about social work.
That's right. That's right.
When
We
which
gotta
makes
change
no sense to me because we can do
that.
everything.
Everything.
We
Everything.
are the social work is the super career. Like there is
Yes.
not, the only thing I feel like I can't do in this world is maybe heart surgery. Everything else, I'm a social worker. I can
Yeah, but you know what? We do heart surgery, right? But we do heart surgery in a
do
different way.
in a
Yep.
different way. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. We really can do everything.
Oh, I love it. I love that.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, I think that, just moving forward, there's a lot that that we really need to really start to think about as social workers and really just start to break down a lot of the stereotypes of who we are. And again, start to educate our communities and educate even schools of social work to begin again to change their curriculum because I know a lot of students, especially that are interested in policy practice and other types of social work that's not relative to clinical, don't necessarily feel equipped when they're going into the world of work. So there are
Mhm.
things that we definitely need to start thinking about. How do we change this? How do we equip the new generation of social workers to really be equipped to be in these spaces? And how do we educate our society so they understand the work that we do?
Absolutely. And I think that's going to require really intentional um, thinking on behalf of social work leadership across the board, from nonprofit leaders, nonprofit executives to NASW at the local and
Yeah.
federal level,
Mhm.
to the schools of social work, the deans of social work, being really intentional about where we want our field to go. Right,
Yes.
we want more social workers. We want more social workers that, like I said before, are culturally humble.
Yeah.
The coalition is focused on getting linguistically competent social workers to enter the field, and that pipeline cannot just start when a student enrolls in social work school.
That's
you
right.
know we need to start talking to students when they're in undergrad. we need to
Yes.
we need to start getting people involved and interested in the profession as early as high school, um,
Yes.
and letting folks know that if they choose to become social workers, they will have the support that they need to make it happen. Social work education is very expensive.
Oh yeah.
What can be done in that space to
Hmm.
make the profession more attractive to people and more accessible to people, and more
Yeah.
accessible to people of color, in particular Black and brown social
Mhm.
workers, that are going to go out to do the hard work of working in communities that need a lot of support and a lot of help. So
Mhm.
being really intentional is going to be key for social work leadership. You and I are under that umbrella.
Yeah.
How can organizations work together, form coalitions, become allies, and really think strategically about the direction that social work is going to go towards, is going to be really, really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that really sums it up really nicely. Is making it accessible. But you mentioned something, Luisa. You said that most parents are really pushing their kids to go the more traditional, or I don't know if I want to call it traditional, but the more common routes, right? Common.
Yeah.
Go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be, teacher. But what about social work? But I think that a part of that it is all interconnected to what we've been talking about is the lack of understanding of our profession, of who we are, of the breadth of our reach, of our impacts. And so I think it is vital that we actually start to recruit high schoolers and have conversations with even elementary school students. I would love to hear a 5-year-old say, when I grow up, I want to be a social
Yeah.
worker.
Yeah.
I mean, golden.
Yeah.
That melts my heart in so many ways to
That'd be
hear when we are kids actually saying that. And imagine if we can really inform our communities and begin to educate them about our profession and about the necessity of bringing up and training up the next generation, the alpha. My daughter is 10. That generation of kids that are looking to be into social workers and creating pathways and trajectories for them to be able to make it accessible for them to get there. I
Mhm.
love I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm after this, I'm gonna go and start planning. My staff are gonna be like, get off that email. This is really
Oh, I
inspired
love
me,
it.
Lisa. Um, I love that so much, but I just wanted to give you the floor. I know we're closing on time here. Any last words about the what you're doing, that your work, what you're up to, how people can follow you and get in touch with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, I'm the president of the Latino Social Work Coalition, and it's Giving Tuesday. Today is the perfect chance to get involved, to help support this incredible organization. We are dedicated to strengthening the pipeline of Latino social workers in the field because we know the importance, we value the importance of culturally humble and linguistically competent social workers in communities of color. We have been around for 22 years doing this work, advocating on behalf of Latino social workers, and we want to continue doing it for another 22 more. So if you are interested in us, please go to our website. It's latinosocialworkcoalition.org. And today is Giving Tuesday. It's the perfect chance to really show your generosity for Latino social workers, for the work that we do. The link is on the screen. Please support us. We provide scholarships to Latino social workers. We provide professional development, mentorship, networking opportunities, continuing education. We do it all.
I love
just
it.
just like social workers.
I love
So we are really focused on supporting not just the social workers that are in our coalition, but the communities that we serve, because we know how important it is to have a social worker that, number one, looks like you, and number two, you can understand. So please get on the website. It's latinosocialworkcoalition.org. And if you find it in your heart to donate today, we would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I love that. Please support Latino Social Work Coalition. They are amazing team of all social workers who are dedicated to this profession and to affecting change in our communities of color. I was able to be in the midst of you amazing humans. I think last week, and then a few weeks before that. And I tell you, every time I'm in your presence, in the presence of Latino Social Work Coalition, I am uplifted. So please support the work that they're doing. Louisa, it's we're closing on time, but I just want to say thank you so much for being with me. I know you're busy. You are never not doing anything, so I'm sure you're probably multitasking and probably thinking about, okay, I need to hurry this up and do this next. So I appreciate your time and your friendship and your partnership and all that you do. So thank you again for sharing a space with me. I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you so much, Shanequa. You are incredible. And I am honored to be in this profession and in this work with you and all of the incredible things that you're doing. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait till the next time.
Yes.
We're going to do great things together. Social
Yes,
workers
we will.
always do great things together.
Yes, we will. We have some things cooking up our sleeve, guys. So just stay tuned. I want to shout out Basilio really quickly before we end.
Oh, yes.
Good to see you, Bass. Thanks for joining us. We love you so much. Thank you for supporting us as always. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your support. It's Given Tuesday. Please support Latino Social Coalition. iRaise is also having a fundraiser. Feel free to go on our page as well and support us as we continue raising up the next generation of leaders. We appreciate all of you so much. We want to wish you again happy holidays. Everyone stay safe. I'll be back on Thursday. And then we have some treats for you as well. As promised, will be launching our ATL Rise podcast. You'll be able to see that the full episode very shortly. So please stay tuned for that as well. Thank you all. We love you. We appreciate you. Stay safe, and we'll see you again.